Welcome back to the deep dive. I want to start today by asking you to visualize something. Picture the last time you applied for a job. You probably spent hours, maybe even days, tweaking your resume.
Oh, yeah. Obsessing over it.
Totally. You obsessed over the font, the bullet points. Maybe you even wrote one of those cover letters that you just, deep down no one's ever going to read. You hit submit, and then just silence. Nothing. Just the void.
The dreaded black hole.
Exactly. The black hole. But today, we're going to flip the script. We are not looking at this from the perspective of the anxious applicant.
Right.
We are looking at the machine on the other side of that submit button. We are diving into the massive, complex, and frankly, sometimes completely baffling engine that is recruitment.
It really is an engine, isn't it?
I think so. Because based on the research we have today, this isn't just about, hiring a guy. It's the fundamental plumbing of the entire economy.
It really is. And it's so fascinating because everyone, and I mean everyone, interacts with recruitment, but very few people actually understand the mechanics of it.
We all just see our little piece of it.
Exactly. We tend to view it through this really narrow lens, usually just our own desperation to get hired or the frustration of trying to fill a seat on our team.
Right.
But when you look at the source material we have today, which is this comprehensive breakdown of the entire recruitment landscape, you realize it's a multi-billion-dollar industry.
Wow.
And it involves psychological warfare, legal minefields, algorithmic gatekeepers, and the hunt for mythical creatures.
Well, hold on. Mythical creatures.
We'll get to that. Let's just say that in the recruitment world, finding a purple squirrel is like the ultimate goal.
I am already hooked on the purple squirrel.
Yeah.
But, okay, we have to lay the groundwork first. Let's start with the definition. When we say recruitment, are we just talking about HR posting a job ad on some website?
Right.
Because that feels way too simple.
It is too simple. The formal definition we're working with here is the overall process.
The whole thing.
The whole thing. Identifying, sourcing, screening, shortlisting, interviewing, and finally appointing candidates.
Okay, so it's the entire life cycle.
The entire thing. And that applies to everything. It applies to a Fortune 500 CEO. It applies to a barista at a coffee shop. And interestingly, it even applies to unpaid roles.
Wait, really? So finding a volunteer for the PTA bake sale is technically recruitment.
Absolutely. The mechanisms are surprisingly similar. You're still identifying a need, you're sourcing a person, and you're screening them for suitability.
Can you bake brownies without burning them?
Exactly. The currency might be different, gratitude instead of a salary, but the engine is the same. And we also need to broaden our idea of who is doing the recruiting.
Right. Because the stereotype is just that, frazzled HR generalist drowning in paperwork.
And that person exists, sure. But recruitment today involves hiring managers, specialized recruitment agencies, public sector bodies, executive search firms.
The headhunters.
What we usually call headhunters, yeah. And increasingly, artificial intelligence.
The robots. We cannot ignore the robots.
We definitely can't. AI has fundamentally changed the landscape. It's taken us from paper shuffling to, high-speed algorithmic sorting.
So our mission today, then, is to decode how companies actually find people, uncover the hidden biases in that system, both human and machine, and figure out why, despite all this incredible technology, finding the perfect candidate is still so incredibly difficult.
Which brings us to the very first step, the process.
Let's break this down, because to an outsider, it looks like total chaos. But there is a standard flow, isn't there?
There is. It usually flows from job analysis to sourcing, then screening, interviewing, and finally hiring.
Okay.
And I want to pause on that first one, job analysis, because this is where most companies fail before they even start.
Job analysis sounds incredibly dry. It sounds like a spreadsheet meeting I would try to skip.
It is a spreadsheet meeting, but it's a critical one. This is where the organization has to document the KSAOs.
KSAOs. Okay, that sounds like a secret police force or something.
It stands for knowledge, skills, abilities, and other characteristics. Basically, you have to document exactly what is required for the job, and I mean exactly.
Okay, give me an example of how this goes wrong, because I'm sure it goes wrong all the time.
All the time. Okay, so imagine a hiring manager says, I need a marketing manager. HR says, great, what do they need to do?
Right.
The manager says, marketing stuff, run campaigns, be creative.
That sounds kind of reasonable, actually.
It's terrible. It's completely vague. Does run campaigns mean digital ads on TikTok? Or does it mean billboard strategy? Does creative mean they can use Photoshop? Or does it mean they're a good copywriter?
So it's about specificity.
Extreme specificity. If you don't define the KSAOs properly, you end up searching for a phantom. It's like sending the recruiters out to find food instead of telling them you need organic bananas and whole milk.
And that leads to this kickoff call, right?
The scoping call. This is the negotiation table. This is where the recruiter, who knows the market, sits down with the hiring manager, who knows the job, and they have to align.
They have to agree on what they're even looking for.
Yes. If they don't agree on what good looks like from day one, the rest of the entire process is just a colossal waste of money and time.
Okay, so once they have their list, their very specific list, they go hunting. This is the sourcing phase. And I want to get into the weeds here because to me, this sounds like the difference between fishing and hunting.
That is actually a perfect analogy. Most people think recruitment is fishing.
You bait a hook.
You bait the hook, which is your job ad. You throw it in the lake, which is LinkedIn or Indeed, and you sit in your boat waiting for the bobber to move.
Right. And if the fish aren't biting, you just assume there are no fish in the lake. You say, oh, there's a talent shortage.
Exactly. You blame the lake. But sourcing, real professional sourcing, is hunting. You aren't waiting. You are putting on the camo, grabbing a rifle, and walking into the woods to find a specific animal that is actively trying to hide from you.
I love that image, though it does sound a little aggressive for HR.
It has to be aggressive. Because the best candidates, those purple squirrels we teased earlier, they are not looking at job boards.
They're not looking for a job.
Not at all. They're happy. They're well paid. They are sitting at their desks right now, crushing it for your competitor. They're what we call passive candidates.
So how do you find them? I mean, if they aren't on the job boards, do they even exist to a recruiter?
This is where we get into what the industry calls name generation. And honestly, this is the part that feels most like corporate espionage.
Name generation.
Yeah.
It sounds so innocuous, like a random username creator, but I'm guessing it's not.
It's pure detective work. Think about it. You need to find the lead engineer at a rival firm. How do you get their name?
I have no idea.
Before the internet, this was literally calling a company's switchboard, pretending to be a vendor or a confused client. You'd say, oh, I need to send a thank you note to the guy who runs your engineering department. What was his name again? Dave.
Steve. No way. Social engineering.
100%. You trick the receptionist into giving you the org chart.
That's incredible.
Today it's more digital, but the mindset is the same. It's analyzing conference attendee lists, looking at patent filings to see who invented a specific technology, or cross-referencing GitHub repositories.
So you're building a file on someone.
You are building a dossier on a person who doesn't even know you exist, just so you can call them and offer them a job they didn't ask for.
That is wild.
Yeah.
It really is spycraft. And we're seeing a shift here too, right?
Right.
Because it used to be all about the applicant tracking system, the ATS.
The robot gatekeeper, yes. But because everyone has figured out how to game the ATS with keywords.
Right. You just stuff your resume with all the buzzwords.
We're seeing a return to direct engagement. Candidates are using networking tools to bypass the machines and reach decision makers directly. And recruiters are using those same tools to headhunt directly. It's becoming a hand-to-hand combat situation.
But let's talk about the most basic lever a company can pull. If the hunting isn't working and the fishing isn't working, usually the answer is just money, right?
The economics of attraction, it's simple but incredibly powerful. The source material we looked at references a study regarding application wage elasticity.
Okay, let's unpack that. Application wage elasticity. It sounds like something from the Econ 101 nightmare.
It's actually quite intuitive. The study estimates the elasticity at 1.
Meaning?
It means there is a direct proportional relationship. If you increase the wage you're offering by, say, 10%, you don't just get 10% more applicants. You theoretically get a 10% increase in the quality and volume of the entire pool.
So if you're offering peanuts and you're complaining, you can only find monkeys.
The math suggests you should probably stop buying peanuts. Money talks. If you aren't getting good people, the economic reality is that your price point is just wrong for the market.
It's a groundbreaking concept.
Yeah.
Pay people more, you get better people. Who knew?
Right.
But let's say you don't want to go out to the open market. Let's say you want to look inside the house first. This brings us to internal recruitment.
Right. Promoting from within. This is when you select a candidate from your existing workforce. It could be a promotion, a transfer, or just a developmental move.
And I imagine the biggest pro here is that you know what you're getting. There are no surprises. You aren't guessing.
Trust is the massive factor. You know their track record. You know if they show up on time. You know if they fit the culture. You know if they steal lunches from the community fridge.
That last one's important.
It's very important. It's also usually quicker and cheaper than hiring externally. And think about the morale aspect. It encourages skill development because employees see a future. If they know they can move up, they might work harder.
But there's a catch. And I love this analogy we were discussing earlier. It's the hole in the roof problem.
The domino effect.
Yeah.
Yes, imagine you have a hole in your roof. And to fix it, you take a shingle from the bottom of the roof and you move it to the top.
Okay. I still have a hole in my roof. I just moved it.
Precisely. This is the supply chain problem of internal recruitment. You aren't actually adding capacity to the organization, you're just shifting the vacancy around. If you promote a manager to director, you now have a manager vacancy.
So you have to fill that.
Right, so maybe you promote a senior associate to manager, now you have a senior associate vacancy. You keep shifting the hole down until it's at the entry level.
Which is easier to fill, presumably.
Theoretically. But think about the disruption. You haven't just created one transition, you've created 4 or 5. Every single one of those people has to learn a new job, get up to speed, and establish new relationships.
I hadn't thought about that.
You've essentially unsettled 4 layers of your company just to fill one top spot.
So the churn cost is way higher than just the one hire.
It creates a lot of internal friction. But companies still do it all the time because the risk of bringing in an outsider who fails is often seen as much, much higher.
Now this connects to what is arguably the most powerful tool in all of recruitment, the who you know factor. Employee referrals.
The golden ticket.
Why is this still so dominant? In an age of AI and massive global databases, why are we still relying on, hey, my friend Bob would be good for this?
Because the data is just overwhelmingly in favor of referrals. It's not even close.
Okay, lay it on me.
First, there's quality. Candidates hired through referrals tend to stay up to 3 times longer than those hired through job boards.
3 times longer. That's a huge difference in retention. That saves a ton of money.
It is massive. And the reason is fit and pre-screening. When an employee refers someone, they are essentially putting their own reputation on the line.
Right. I'm not going to recommend my friend who I know is a total slacker, because then I look like an idiot.
Exactly. You are the filter. You aren't going to recommend someone who will embarrass you or make your life harder. So the company gets a pre-vetted candidate for free.
And the candidate benefits too, right?
Massively. Because they have a friend on the inside, they get a realistic preview of the job.
They know the real deal. They're not just reading the glossy brochure on the careers page.
They know the boss is grumpy on Mondays, or that the coffee is terrible, or that the hours are actually really long. They know the good and the bad before they start, so there's less culture shock. They don't quit after 2 months because it wasn't what they expected.
And I assume it's cheaper for the company.
Oh, significantly. Think about third-party agencies. If you hire a headhunter, they might charge a 20 to 25% finder's fee.
Whoa. So if you're hiring someone at a $100,000 salary.
You are paying that recruiter $25,000 just to find them.
Yeah.
Compare that to paying your own employee a $2,000 or maybe a $5,000 referral bonus. It's a no-brainer financially.
Okay, I promised we'd get to it. This is where the purple squirrel comes in. Please explain this term from the source material because it's just delightful.
It's a classic recruitment term. In the industry, a purple squirrel is a candidate who is considered a perfect fit.
Perfect in what way?
I mean, they have the exact experience, the exact education, the perfect salary expectations, and they're available right now.
And they are willing to work in your specific, maybe not so glamorous location.
Right. They check every single box. They are so rare that they are essentially mythological, like a purple squirrel.
So companies use referrals to hunt for these mythical creatures.
Exactly, because standard job boards usually bring in standard candidates. If you need something incredibly specific, I need a Mandarin-speaking underwater welder who also knows Python, you're not going to find that on Indeed.
Right.
You tap your network. You ask your employees, who do you know? Who is the weirdest, most specific expert you went to college with?
But, and there's always a but, if everyone is just hiring their friends, doesn't that make the workplace a little cliquey?
That is the double-edged sword. The huge risk is an overly homogeneous workforce.
Right.
If you only hire people your employees know, you tend to get more of the same. Same background, same school, same way of thinking, same demographics.
And that just kills diversity.
It creates a serious, serious barrier to diversity. And from a pure business standpoint, it risks innovation. A homogeneous workforce, as the source notes, is at risk of failing to produce novel ideas. You end up with an echo chamber.
So you save money and time on the front end, but you might lose out on the next big idea because everyone in the room thinks exactly alike.
Correct. It's a balance between efficiency and creativity. If everyone in the room always agrees, you're probably not innovating, you're just maintaining.
Okay, let's move to the next stage. You've sourced your candidates. Maybe you found a few potential purple squirrels through referrals or some light corporate espionage. Now you have to filter them. This is the screening phase.
This is where we try to predict the future. We are trying to predict how a person will perform in a job they've never done based on very limited data. Companies use a whole variety of mechanisms here. Psychological testing, physical ability tests, literacy tests.
And psychometrics, what is that exactly?
Yeah, so psychometrics are basically software tools used to assess personality and performance. Things like the Myers-Briggs or the DISCI assessment. The goal is standardization.
To make it fair.
In theory, standardized tests have been found to improve selection validity while avoiding discrimination. If everyone takes the same test, it should be a level playing field.
But I want to circle back to something about screening.
Yeah.
We talked about software, but there's a much older, much more analog screen that we're still using every single day. The college degree...
And paper sealing.
Right. And looking at the research here, this seems to be one of the biggest inefficiencies in the entire global economy. We're not just talking about a few people being left out.
No, we are talking about millions and millions of people. The source material highlights a specific demographic called STARs, S-T-A-Rs.
Skilled through alternative routes.
Exactly. These are the 70 million workers in the U.S. alone who have the necessary skills, maybe learned it in the military, or through a community college, or just years of grinding away in a lower level role, but they don't have that bachelor's degree.
And because they don't have that one piece of paper, the ATS, that robot we talked about, automatically deletes their application.
Before a human ever even sees their name, it is a tragedy of wasted potential. It's staggering when you think about it.
It really is.
You have a shortage of talent, you have companies complaining constantly that they can't find workers, and yet you have a filter set up to automatically reject 60% of the workforce because they didn't spend 4 years in a lecture hall 20 years ago.
It's just laziness, isn't it? The degree is just a proxy for, is this person smart and disciplined?
It's a lazy proxy, and it's a dangerous one because it creates this massive barrier to economic mobility. If you can do the job, but I won't hire you because you couldn't afford university when you were 18, I'm not just hurting you. I'm hurting my own company by artificially shrinking my talent pool.
And this connects to cultural fit, too. I feel like cultural fit is often just code for, do I want to have a beer with this person?
It often is. Multinational organizations especially emphasize fitting into the prevailing culture. But often, fit is just a proxy for people we are comfortable with. It can completely override raw skill and competence.
So you hire the guy who likes the same sports team as you.
Rather than the star who could actually double your sales but maybe has a different background.
Now, I have to drop this fun fact from the history books because it absolutely blew my mind. The source claims that the selection process, the interview, the testing, is often attributed to a specific inventor.
Yes, Thomas Edison.
The light bulb guy.
Seriously, the very same.
From light bulbs to job interviews. That man really liked to judge things, didn't he?
He was obsessed with efficiency. The story goes that he created this incredibly rigorous test for potential employees because he wanted people who had a broad range of general knowledge, not just specialists.
So what did he ask?
He would ask obscure questions about geography or weights and measures, things that had nothing to do with the actual job.
So if you didn't know the capital of North Dakota, you couldn't be an engineer at his factory.
Basically. He treated human capital much like components in a machine. He wanted to weed out the defective parts before they ever got into his factory.
Which raises a question we'll have to touch on later.
Yeah.
Are we still using a 19th century industrial mindset for 21st century knowledge jobs?
That is the lingering thought, isn't it?
It is. Yeah. But let's stick to the 21st century for a moment. We talked about internal hiring, but sometimes you have to go outside. Why bring in a stranger?
To break that homogeneity we discussed, external recruitment brings in fresh ideas, new perspectives, and it opens up a much, much larger applicant pool.
And this is where niche firms come into play. If I'm hiring a nuclear physicist, I probably shouldn't use the same recruiter who hires retail staff for the mall.
Probably not a good idea, no. If you're in the energy industry or aerospace or biotech, you want a niche firm. These recruiters, they know the specific demographic shifts, like an aging workforce in the energy sector, and they build these long-term relationships.
So they're not just transactional.
Not at all. These recruiters might place the same specialized engineer 3 or 4 times over the course of their 30-year career.
They're like sports agents for nerds.
Very much so. They know the market value of that specific talent better than the companies themselves do sometimes.
And then there's social recruiting.
Yeah.
The source mentions a study from Cyprus that found, 73.5% of companies had a social networking account for recruiting.
It is the new normal. Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, or X, I guess. Pros are obvious.
Yeah.
It's cheaper, it's faster, and it attracts what the source calls computer-literate young individuals. It boosts the brand image.
But I sense a but.
But there is a creepiness factor.
I was going to say, if a recruiter is looking at my Facebook photos from 2012, that feels a little invasive.
That's the issue. Privacy and discrimination. If I can see your profile picture, your family photos, your vacation snaps, and your political posts before I even interview you, bias can creep in instantly, unconscious or not.
Oh, he posts about that politician. Denied.
Exactly. Or, oh, she has 3 young kids in her photos. Maybe she won't want to work late. These are illegal biases in many places, but if you see the photo, you can't unsee it. It's in your head.
Plus, people's profiles are often completely outdated. I think my LinkedIn still says I'm enthusiastic about synergies, which was true 10 years ago, but maybe not today.
Exactly. The information isn't always reliable. It's a snapshot from a time you might not even recognize.
Okay, what about RPO? Recruitment Process Outsourcing. This sounds like Inception for hiring.
It kind of is. This is for companies that just want to hand the keys over. It's a form of business process outsourcing where a third party takes over the entire hiring function.
So you're hiring a company to hire your people for you.
Yes, they become the company's recruiting department, essentially. If you're a massive tech company and you need to hire 5,000 people in a year, you might not have the internal team to do that effectively. So you hire an RPO provider to build the pipeline, do all the screening, and manage the interviews.
Let's pivot to the darker side of things, ethics and law. Because when you're dealing with people's livelihoods, the stakes are incredibly high. And the source material has a whole section on this.
They are. And the legal landscape varies wildly by country. Generally, in most Western countries, employers must screen for legal immigration status. That's a baseline.
And in the U.S., we have the EEOC.
Right. The Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. They prohibit discrimination based on race, color, religion, sex, age, disability, national origin. That's the standard in the U.S. But the source highlights this really interesting nuance in Germany.
Yeah, I saw that. Public universities in Germany don't have to advertise jobs. That sounds weird.
Generally, no, unless it's for a tenured full professor. For other academic positions, they aren't required to advertise, and the anti-discrimination laws there only apply to advertised jobs and the wording in the ad.
Wait. So if they don't advertise it, the rules don't apply.
It creates this potential loophole where if you just hire someone quietly, you can bypass some of those checks and balances. It just shows how different these national systems can be.
That sounds like a recipe for the old boys club. Just tapping your friend on the shoulder for a job.
Which leads us directly to corruption. Recruitment is identified as a key corruption risk, especially in the public sector, but it happens everywhere.
Nepotism.
Nepotism is the big one, hiring unqualified friends or family. But there's also a practice called recycling.
That sounds eco-friendly, but I have a feeling it's not.
It is definitely not. It's when a bad employee, maybe someone who's abusive or incompetent or corrupt, is moved from one department or company to another rather than actually being fired.
You're just passing the trash around the organization.
Yeah, exactly. And then there's just failing to validate backgrounds properly. And the consequences here aren't just, oh, we hired a bad accountant.
No, the source is pretty grim on this.
In safety-critical roles or executive positions, the wrong hire can lead to actual disasters. We were talking PR nightmares, bankruptcies, or in industrial settings, natural disasters or loss of life. If the person making the safety decisions is incompetent and was only hired because they were the boss's nephew, people can get hurt or killed.
This brings up safer recruitment. This isn't just about safety gear. It's a specific term regarding vulnerable groups, right?
Yes, specifically regarding children and vulnerable adults. Guidelines like those from the NSPCC in the UK focus on suitability. It's not just, can you teach math? It's, are you safe to be in a room alone with a child?
A totally different level of scrutiny.
A much, much deeper level of vetting and behavioral analysis is required to prevent harm.
We also need to talk about disability in recruitment. There's so much bias here, and frankly, a lot of just flat-out misconceptions.
Huge bias. The word disability itself often carries these negative connotations for employers. They immediately fear it means lower productivity or higher costs. They think, oh, this person will need expensive accommodations.
But the research says the complete opposite.
Completely otherwise. The research shows no difference in daily production. In fact, disabled workers often adapt better to new environments. Think about it. A person with a disability navigates a world that was not designed for them every single day.
So they're natural problem solvers.
They're natural problem solvers. They are incredibly resilient. They have to be.
So you aren't hiring a charity case, you are hiring a world-class problem solver.
Exactly. And there are even financial incentives. In the U.S., the IRS grants something called the Disabled Access Credit to eligible companies to help with accommodations. So there's a financial upside alongside the operational upside of getting a resilient, loyal employee.
We're coming into the home stretch here. Let's talk about strategy. How do big companies organize this mess? If you're hiring 10,000 people a year, you can't just wing it.
No, you can't. For high-volume companies, they use what's called a multi-tier model. Think of it like a customer service help desk or an assembly line for recruiting.
Okay, lay out the tiers for me.
So tier 1 is the contact or help desk. These are simple, repetitive queries. Where do I upload my resume? What is the deadline for this job?
The easy stuff, the FAQs.
The easy stuff. Tier 2 is administration. This is the paperwork, the process management, scheduling the interviews, booking the flights.
And tier 3.
Tier 3 is process. This is the high-level fulfillment. This is the actual strategic work of finding and selecting the top talent. By separating these, the expensive experts in Tier 3 aren't wasting their time answering, how do I reset my password for the career portal?
That makes a lot of sense, efficiency. But then comes the hard part, making the final decision. You have 3 great candidates, they all look good on paper, they all have nice ties. How do you choose without just going on a gut feeling?
This is where the math comes back in. The source mentions something called MCDA.
Multiple criteria decision analysis.
This specifically a method called the analytic hierarchy process, or AHP.
That sounds intense.
Yeah.
What is it?
It's a way to mathematically weigh different factors to remove bias. Let's say you're hiring a fresh graduate. They don't have a long track record of experience, so how do you compare them?
Right. It's tough.
You use AHP to assign weights. Maybe GPA is worth 20%, their internship performance is 30%, their soft skills are 25%, and their interview scores are the last 25%.
So you turn the person into a score.
You do. It sounds cold, but it helps remove the bias. If you just go by your gut, you might just hire the person who reminds you of yourself when you were 22.
Guilty.
If you use the weighted score, you hire the person who actually fits the criteria you defined as important from the very beginning. It forces you to be objective.
So, after all of this, the sourcing, the spycraft, the tiers, the algorithms, the hunt for purple squirrels, what does it all mean for us? What's the big picture here?
Well, looking at the whole thing, a recruitment is a constant tension. It's a balance. A balance between speed, which you get from referrals, and internal hiring and innovation, which you get from external hiring and diversity.
And it's navigating this minefield of ethics and technology all at the same time.
Exactly. The system is designed to filter. That is its one job. But the danger is that it filters out the wrong things, like those stars who don't have degrees, or it lets in the wrong things, like the corrupt hires or the homogenous cultural fits that kill creativity.
It really feels like we're at a crossroads. We have all this AI and modern tech, but we're still using resumes and interviews that really haven't changed much in 100 years.
We are, and that brings us right back to our friend Edison.
The provocation.
If the selection process as we know it is truly an invention of Thomas Edison, and we are still using variations of his basic model today, are we trying to power a modern AI economy with a 19th century light bulb filament?
That is a lingering thought.
Oh.
Is it time to completely dismantle the interview as we know it?
It might be. The data suggests there might be better, more predictive ways to do this.
Well, on that note, we will leave you to polish your resume, or maybe burn it, depending on how you feel after this. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into recruitment.
Thank you.